What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Unusual Suspects. I am Connor Walcott. I have the privilege of being your humble host for this evening's episode. We have a fantastic one lined up for you. Episode 174. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
This one will do it, though.
Yeah. This one will do it. If the other ones haven't, this one sure will.
Heavy duty.
So, obviously, we are going to be talking about all the stuff that came out about Jeffrey Epstein in the last week. It feels like we can't even keep up with this. Every time I try to sit down and hey, maybe one episode without an Epstein story, every time I think about it, they pull me back in. We will also be talking about the revelations about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the would-be Trump assassin, and how the FBI has once again dropped the ball on a massive investigation. We will also be touching on a handful of other stories, including whether people were being hunted in Sarajevo during the siege in the 90s, as well as a handful of other things, what's going on in Mexico, and if we have time, how the WEF is attempting to engineer human beings to be allergic to red meat through the use of ticks.
I hope we get to talk about that, by the way.
But before we do that, let me go around, introduce our panel of expert opinion havers today.
So-called experts.
So, starting off, you know him, you love him, some of you hate him.
Yeah.
Humberto.
Don't blame you, you know.
Humberto, the international man of mystery, with me as always. Back from the dead, Viva Frey.
Metaphorically speaking, which one's my camera? This one over here? It's good to see all of you again. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a couple of months.
Yeah. We were just talking. I don't think you've been with us since the 9/11 episode we did.
9/11 was the last episode. Then I got a call that said, Viva, you've said too much. That's a joke, everybody. No, it's been a while, but I was traveling a little bit. Went to Lugano, Switzerland. Where did I go after that? New Orleans for a investment conference where I gave a talk. And New Orleans, anyone been there?
Yeah, I've been to New Orleans.
Bourbon Street, I walked Bourbon Street at 9:30 in the morning. I'm like, this is a perfect mix between Vegas, New York City, and Sodom and Gomorrah. And then I was like, I saw a homeless guy walking around with a machete, and I was like, I'm going to go to the airport a couple hours early and avoid some trouble.
Well, good job surviving. And you've been profiled in the New York Times a handful of times since then. You're really on the come up, but you still make the time to come visit us, and we appreciate it. And back for the second time, Ilan Muallem, who was with us a few weeks ago. We loved you. You gave us free watches, and we brought you back. So, pleasure to have you again, Ilan. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. Is the love because I brought the watches?
Oh, no, we loved you, and then you
doubled up on it with the watches.
Gave us some swag, and
I'm
we realized we'd invite you back again. But like I said, great show for you today. So, without further ado, let's get into it with something that Viva is particularly qualified to tell us about. You covered this story for us 9 months ago, and things have only gotten worse since. And
Jeez,
I think
Luis, we talked about it on this show
we did.
9 months ago.
9 months ago.
It's wild.
I believe our American audience might have missed the tragic conclusion of this story about a week and a half ago. So please tell us what is going on with ostriches in Canada.
So I've been going nuts on this story. I had to Google to see when I initially got involved in that story. And Grok said I tweeted about it in late December 2024, but I could only find anything from January 2025. This was the story of the ostriches that had allegedly become infected with H5N1 in Canada. The CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, gets miraculously tipped off that there are infected birds at this farm because allegedly ducks flew over the farm, went into a pond, the birds got sick. Somebody tips off the CFIA. They come in and they say, you got to kill all of your birds, even the ones that survived the initial outbreak. So they contested that decision of the administrative body to the federal court, not of appeal yet, but the federal court. In April, May, the federal court says, not an inherently unreasonable decision from this Soviet-style administrative body. You got to go kill the birds, even though the ones that are alive survived and have been healthy for 4 or 5 months. They appeal to the Court of Appeal. And in August, the Court of Appeal unanimously says, yeah, the lower court was right. We don't interfere with the CFIA's decision. You got to kill these birds now, 397 of them that have been healthy for now 8 months. They appeal to the Supreme Court, and in the interim, the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, comes in, takes custody of the birds, occupies the farm, occupies the neighboring farm, or a garlic farm, and basically takes control of the ostriches until the Supreme Court rules on whether or not they take the case up to they take the case. Supreme Court says no, and literally after 40 some odd days of occupation, they had set up this kill pen
I believe I actually have a picture of that here.
It's a monstrosity.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
They set up a kill. They had set up this kill pen over the course of 40 days. 2 bales of hay wide, 3 bales or 4 bales high. They set up like perches for snipers, and the second the Supreme Court said we're not taking up the case, the protective order that was in effect until that time lapses. And I've been using 2 analogies. One is like alcoholics to an open bar, and like teenagers who just got told they could lose their virginity. They run in there and slaughter all of the ostriches in the dead of night. They just start popping off one shot after another. No warning. The farm owners are sitting there listening to bullets ringing out in the night. These people, bloodlust demons, slaughtered all of the birds. And they shot like 900 or 1,000 shots, and there were only, at that time, less than 300 ostriches left. We don't know what happened to the other ones. And they slaughtered all of them under the watchful eye of the Royal Canadian Mounted Gestapo, as I call them now, the RCMG. And the world was in an uproar for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then,
stopped caring.
The news cycle moved on.
Yeah.
And I realized I was emotionally invested in this. I did everything I could over the course of close to a year, and honestly and sincerely did not think it would end like this. I thought there'd be a happy ending. And I was on the phone with Katie, the daughter of the farm owner, while they're slaughtering the ostriches, and she's beside herself. Just like you could hear gunshots in the distance, and they came in, killed all of them, left their carcasses out there to rot for a couple of days. They're still in blue bins. That whole area now is a let's call it a quarantine. It's a hazardous zone that they've fenced off to the farm owners. They still don't have access to their property. And birds, migratory birds, are now like going through their ducts and whatever in the blood-soaked leftover mud slop that the cops left as they left a trail of disaster and slaughter.
Yeah, because I believe we were talking about this back when you first covered it. There's no good way to kill an ostrich. Like a bird that size, there's no way to kill them one at a time. So for them to roll out a firing squad, like load them into a tiny little pen and just gun them down. I believe they went through after they were done shooting, and any of them that were still alive but had been injured, they just decapitated.
That's crazy.
That was my understanding as well, and I flagged a picture and I said, hey, RCMP, why is this bird missing a head? And if it's missing a head, why? People are like, no, that's the anus, which it's possible. If it is, it's a prolapsed anus, and I'm not trying to be funny. The only reason you'd have a prolapsed anus is because of extreme pain and suffering. But no, they killed those birds over the course of 9 hours. And then there were some that you could hear them wailing, and they had to do it like a round in the next morning. And the whole thing is, it's absolute tyranny, because if the rationale was they were a risk, a vector for infection of H5N1, 11 months out of surviving the infection, that's the last thing you'd want to do, is spill their guts and gore all over the place and let birds and not what are they called, scavengers come in and just pick away at the parts. It's the last thing you'd want to do.
There's something interesting here that it kind of reminded me of COVID a little bit with the debate of natural immunity. That was like the big thing that kind of hit me here, where they're just trying to deny any kind of natural immunity. These birds could be very beneficial for research. If they survive the virus, they could potentially carry antibodies, and you could research them. You wouldn't just get rid of their bodies like this.
You're one step ahead of my theory. They were doing research on these birds as of 2021 for COVID antibodies, and my operating theory is that this was a big pharma or globalist heist. And when the CFIA took custody over this, there were supposedly 330 ostriches that they had care of. By the end of it, there were nowhere near 330. Throughout the 40 days, blue bins were going in and out. And everyone was saying, like, where are the ostriches going? Because here's some shots. We can't count 300 at all. And by the end of it, there were more roosters to hens, where at the beginning it was like 2 to 3 hens to the rooster. By the end of it, it was 1 to 1, if not more, roosters to hens. Hens are more scientifically valuable. And call me crazy, I believe that they were smuggling out either live or dead the hens, so that Big Pharma can go and find whatever antibodies these birds had, because they had antibodies from the H5N1, and they were going to use it for scientific research. I was on with Alex Jones trying to get the world to go crazy over this, and he says, when I mentioned that they allegedly got infected by a flock of duck, and then a mysterious whistleblower calls up the CFIA, he's like, government setup. When they're there that quickly, it's because they were always there. Like, good point. And he's like, yeah, and if they wanted to, if it was hypothetically a gain-of-function H5N1 that they wanted to be more viral, and it wasn't viral because the majority of them survived, you want to kill the survivors so that nobody knows where this H5N1 came from if it was gain-of-function tinkered with. So it's either destroy the evidence or seize it for the benefit of Big Pharma, but that is my underlying theory, for the benefit of Big Pharma, which explains why Pierre Poilievre, the pussy leader of the Conservative Party didn't say a damn thing, because I believe he's as much in bed with Big Pharma as are the Liberals.
And I believe in some of the research I was doing for this, there are a lot of medical applications for ostrich eggs as well. They've found antibodies as far back as COVID of things that could be effective against. And I saw some reports that they were also taking all the eggs. They're saying, oh, the eggs came from the infected bird, so we got to cart off the eggs in big buckets, just like they were doing with the bodies.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean, that theory tracks.
It makes no sense if it was H5N1 and they're still potentially shedding 11 months out of infection. And by the way, none of the birds were ever tested. None of the birds they killed were ever tested. In fact, if you tested them, it was a $200,000 fine and up to 6 months in jail per test. The only birds that were ever tested were 2 dead carcasses in December 2024 with a PCR anal swab cycled to 40. So but stealing the eggs afterwards? And incidentally, I've eaten ostrich. I've eaten ostrich eggs. I have an entire playlist on YouTube. Viva Ostrich.
Tastes pretty good.
There is something interesting about ostrich eggs. I should fact check myself. I'm fairly certain that even people who are allergic to regular eggs are oftentimes not allergic to ostrich eggs.
This is perfect for me because I get terrible migrants from regular eggs.
Let me check that while we do this.
Because I'm going to take one, and if I get a migraine, I'm coming after you.
Don't want people. 4 people died after testing their allergies. It's either ostrich eggs or duck eggs or both. But they're unique in their these particular eggs for the antibodies that they were potentially researching, because they were doing research with a Japanese scientist in the context of COVID. Post-COVID, because the whole farm had to shut down to the public and they found another use. So 2021, there's an article saying that this farm and these eggs have potential antibodies for COVID. It was a big pharma heist. It's the only thing that explains the ostrich bloodlust that the CFIA and their president, Paul McKinnon, who no one should forget these people's names. Don't do anything stupid or illegal. They should be shunned for the rest of their lives. They're not welcome among civilized people anymore. And the RCMP sat there like a bunch of armed Gestapo agents and facilitated the slaughter.
We've
By the
seen
way,
the. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're half right. Chicken, turkey, duck, and goose eggs, they have a high cross reactivity when it comes to allergens. And then ostrich and emu eggs are less reactive. So probably if you're allergic to chicken eggs, you're probably not allergic.
Okay, good. No, that was
I'm going to try
that was my
ostrich.
memory. Say it again.
I'm going to try ostrich eggs.
Do it. Well, it's also, they are deliciously fluffy. Okay. One ostrich egg has the equivalent of about 22 or 24 eggs in it. It's okay. I did a video where I hard boiled an ostrich egg, and then to get through the shell is about as thick as a toonie. You're Canadian, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's a thick thing. So I had to take a saw around, and then I cracked open the entire. It was just a massive hard boiled egg. Not the best way to eat it. Omelets are much better.
Well, if you want to make an omelet, you're going to have to break a few eggs.
No, it's just an abject disaster. The RCMP, after they slaughtered the ostriches, left their carcasses out for a day or two. They finally leave, and as they're leaving, they're just tracking all of that tainted mud, to the extent it was tainted, all over the place.
Yeah,
they take
spreading it everywhere.
They took the hay, the blood-soaked hay, or they say it wasn't blood-soaked, but it was from the pen, and they're just pitchforking it, spreading it across the neighboring fields.
I have a question for you. I'm so curious. Sorry. Just do you feel like the Canadian response to this from the population itself is very weak?
It's not even weak. It affirms it. Like the amount of, I say that Canadians are the most brainwashed, the most propagandized people outside of North Korea, and maybe even more so because North Koreans know that they're getting propagandized. The amount of people who I know they're not bots who came out and said, "Well, it had to be done. Well, what's the big deal? They ate the ostriches." People who don't know a damn thing except what they read in the CBC, and the amazing thing, the CBC during this occupation, well, they're saying, well, one ostrich died because it got sick. It's like, the ostrich that died, named Spirit, was because the CFIA couldn't feed it, wasn't giving it water, wasn't giving it electrolytes. They starved it to death. But then the media says, well, look, there's sick ostriches dying, to create the impression in the mind of a brainwashed rabble that the birds were sick and needed to be culled. The Canadians are the most propagandized people that I know in Western civilization.
Yeah, I did a study on mass psychosis. We ran some social experiments. And the Canadian population is very susceptible because one of the standard things you need is high trust in government or high trust in an authority. And I've just witnessed it. I mean, Canada's cooked. It's done.
It's it's not even a joke anymore. Is in Canada, being a good citizen means doing everything for the greater good and listening to the government, like in New Zealand, but even to a greater degree. But it's like, it's deference to authority is what Canadians identify as what makes them
nice,
but also superior to Americans. Like that's the whole basis of comparison. Oh, those Americans, Wild West, gun to, they're all a bunch of yeehaw Yankees. Like, first of all, yeah, that's what it means when you don't trust the government and you don't rely on the government for your security. Canadians are the exact opposite. It's a self-fulfilling sort of culture-defining attitude, and it's what gets you locked in your frickin' house for 5.5 months during COVID. And those who leave have the free spirit, and those who stay and say, govern me harder, daddy, make Canada what it is.
And on that point, I saw you post a tweet, might have been yesterday, day before, where you showed a picture of the kill pen set up with those bales of hay, and you said, this is the Canadian people in here. This is what they want for you. And I think that's really important to try to drive home as you're trying to communicate to your former countrymen there that, like, this is what the Canadian government does to its people. The trucker protest is the perfect example of anyone who dared to question the government became an enemy of the state. They were debanked. They were vilified in the media. They basically had every level of authority thrown at them to try to get them to fall back in line. So while it might seem crazy that, they'd never herd their people into a kill pen, they've basically been doing the same thing in a legal and governmental sense for decades.
Yeah, well, my tweet was a more nuanced. There was somebody who said this is what they wanted to do to the vaccinated during COVID. Mine was just, if this, my post was the image, and it said, if this is what keeping the peace looks like, you're on the side of terrorists. But no, they did round up Canadians and put them in detention centers. They just called them government, what do they call it? Government designated quarantine facilities. And they stuck them in hotels where women got sexually assaulted, where people were not getting food because they couldn't accommodate it. And then they charged them for the privilege. The
Canadian government has removed parents from their children and arrested them for simply disagreeing with their pronouns. It's not exactly the most free place in the world. It's pretty crazy.
From the standpoint of civil rights, this is the scariest thing I've seen. Like, I never seen government overreach. Because one thing I've seen it like systematically of things that you hear, but I never seen it visually in place at this level. Like, if you just imagine if there was a virus bad enough to like excuse killing humans. This could be a building that they're quarantining. Like, you went to Canada recently, right?
Yeah. My anniversary last year.
All right. Isn't it doesn't it feel,
British Columbia.
Yeah. Banff National Park.
Yeah,
doesn't it feel like a liminal place? Like, you walk around, there's a McDonald's, there's Starbucks and people that kind of look like American, and you're walking around. But the rights that you have there and the way everything is organized is just I think
it looks like America. And then you see, like, we're 5 years out of COVID. I make the joke every time I cross the border, it's like entering an insane asylum. People are still wearing face masks. Everybody, and most people look angry, and they are angry. There's homelessness like you've never seen, drug addiction like you've never seen, and the only coping mechanism for Canadians is to say, well, at least it's not Donald Trump. I mean, you got a 3-passport-carrying globalist whore of a prime minister who's destroying the country, nationalizing private property, slaughtering animals for the sake of it, and people think, well, at least it's not Trump. At least there's no mean tweets and mean words.
It's crazy that even during the trucker protests, people don't remember it. They weren't just arresting and debanking the truckers. They went after people who just supported or donated to the truckers. Like, my friend's bank account was frozen during that time. And a lot of my Canadian friends were like, well, he shouldn't have gotten involved. Well, they have zero understanding of the long-term consequences of what they're bringing on. I mean, we just keep seeing it happening. It's obviously cycling. It's like the government comes in once every year and says, hey, we're just going to remind you, we can overreach. We could do whatever we want. And you're not going to do anything about it.
No, and it was all ratified by the Rouleau Commission. They froze bank accounts. What was amazing is people like taking people from the airports and whisking them off to government-designated quarantine facilities where they didn't have time to consult with counsel or their spouses, locking them in a room and then charging them $2,000 for the privilege. Luckily, a court came down and said, yeah, doing that without allowing them to consult an attorney was a violation of civil rights, but the entire thing itself was reasonably justified for a virus which, fill in the blanks. In Quebec, this was one of my red lines in the sand where we left. They passed a bill C-16 or whatever it was that amended the Youth Protection Act to eliminate parental supremacy as the overarching principle of the Youth Protection Act, which means the government determines what's in the best interest of the child, not the parent. So, but, greater good, security, at least we're not Americans, and meanwhile, it's North Korea of the West.
Yeah, and we saw something similar play out in the United States. Remember when the Biden administration was culling millions of chickens over equally dubious claims of bird flu and various other infections, that was why eggs were so expensive. Most people seem to forget that, but the reason you couldn't get eggs, that they peaked around like $8 for a dozen eggs, wasn't because of inflation or any of the other things. Or it wasn't greedy grocery stores price gouging struggling Americans. It was because the Biden administration was killing chickens by the millions over the exact same thing, claims of bird flu that had never really been verified.
Nobody's died from the bird flu. There might have been one person. Nobody's died from the bird flu.
Can I go one step? Like, I was doing research because eggs got out of hand. I was like, how hard could it be to keep chickens? All right. Apparently, it's not that hard. But if you look at the zoning laws, regulations, and everything, the government makes it incredibly hard for a normal individual to have a chicken because they're very efficient for food. You know what I mean? The last thing they want is something that is not hard to keep, that you can keep in your garden and can keep you fed with protein. It's very scary. Maybe more.
One of the earliest red pill moments for me with food and how the food industry screws us is when I realized that eggs don't need to be refrigerated. Like if you keep chickens in your backyard, you can go harvest eggs and leave them on the counter and they will be fine. The reason you have to refrigerate eggs is because they wash and treat them before they sell them.
Yeah.
And that removes the protective coating. That means they have to be refrigerated or they rot faster.
You know, it's not like that in all countries. How is it in Canada? Are eggs refrigerated or not?
Refrigerated.
Well, in most of South America and I think also Japan, eggs are never refrigerated. You know what I mean?
They don't have the same
Process.
Membrane.
treatment process for the food they do there. So it's one thing after another. Getting screwed by big pharma, getting screwed by food.
Yeah, so I have two autoimmune diseases.
I want to go. Which ones?
I have Crohn's disease and I have psoriasis, which turned into psoriatic arthritis, which then they said was somehow affecting my inner ear and I'm losing my hearing, all types of weird stuff. But when I go travel to Portugal and I eat the food in Portugal, my psoriasis gets better. And I have milk, and I can't have milk here. I get very ill if I have milk here. The meats I don't have any reactions to the meat there, and my whole body clears up, my digestion gets better. And then I come back here, and I don't know what's in the food here, but within 2 weeks of being here, I hold water, my psoriasis flares up, I get migraines, and I'm like, there's something going on in the food in the United States.
And he can testify to this. Within a year that I got here, I put on 90 pounds. Within a year, eating the same stuff, same level of exercise, same everything.
Yeah, how many people did you hear 20 years ago talking about autoimmune diseases and like chronic illness?
It's not clear if you just start talking about it the older you get, and like how many kids did I hear talking about?
No, but it's definitely grown tremendous. Like colon cancer in young adults has tremendously skyrocketed.
It's undeniable. I was just looking up to see how many human deaths have been caused by the H5N1, and I'm fairly certain it's none, if not one, because in Canada there have been none. But no, you talk about the culling of the birds. They're doing it in Canada too. And everyone always wonders, like, how could 20, 30 million people have starved to death in Soviet Russia? How could 50 million people have starved to death under Mao's regime? It's very easy. You kill off all the food for some stupid government-determined, baseless reason.
Yep.
That's how you lead to mass starvation.
Yeah.
And so, egg prices are one thing, but you get to the next step of this type of socialistic, autocratic, totalitarian business, and people start to starve to death if they haven't already started as a result of it.
And then knowledge. Like, what was the stat? Like, most kids didn't know where cow milk came from. Like, they didn't know where milk came from. Like, there's some people that are hopeless. They don't know where their food comes from. Like, a lot of people that you just dropped anywhere without food, they couldn't figure it out. You know, like, it's very sad, the state of food these days.
And it's a very sad state of affairs in Canada. I believe that farm was in operation for 30 plus years. These ostriches have been basically family pets for decades.
35, some of those ostriches were 35 years old, 300 plus pound. People are like, well, they're going to get compensated as though they were chickens. First of all, they're not chickens. Chickens don't live 35 years, and you don't have animals like that. And you can't compensate as though they are a bird that they're not. And second of all, how much is your dog worth? I mean, it's so stupid. Well, they're going to compensate you for killing your dog. They're going to, if they haven't already started, go after dogs, cats that come back with a tainted bird. They're apparently, the rumors, and I hadn't been able to independently verify it, is that they were already going after a when they rescue animals and they put them in these places.
Pound? Or
No.
Shelters?
An outdoor preserve.
Yeah.
They were going after a preserve because birds allegedly infected some of the rescue animals there. They've done it to cattle. They're going to come for your dogs and your cats, and then you're going to have to sit there and shut your mouth and say it's for the greater good.
Yeah.
And here's $50 for the cremation of your dog's corpse.
If the government comes to my house and tries to take my dog, that's where I'm not going to say.
That's where people are going to go John Wick on the government.
I mean, remember that Peanut the squirrel helped shape the course of the 2024
Absolutely.
election.
And this, in Canada, it's like, it'll help shape the next elections. The Conservatives haven't said anything yet. The Conservatives haven't said anything yet. They are useless, and they're worse than useless.
Well, the Conservatives in Canada are not equivalent to Conservatives in the United States.
No,
they're still more left-leaning.
Not gonna say it, but that's your fault, guys. In Chile, they just ran the elections this weekend. They had to get rid. It took, I think, it took 2 election cycles to get rid of all the old school, like conservative people, and get rid of all of them. They had to unseat every single one of them and bring in a new right to get things done. But as long as those guys that seem conservative, but they're not, like it happened in America here too. You have all these rhinos that are conservative by name, and you just need to vote them out and get rid of them. They're the worst. They're worse than actual leftists, because leftists, you know where they're going. These guys, they're traitors. They're the worst people. Unbelievable.
I'm just looking it up. So apparently, throughout the life of whatever they refer to as the avian flu, 476 globally people have died. Since 2020, 6 confirmed human deaths from H5N1, according to WHO data.
Yeah, that's absurd.
We've locked down for more, so maybe we should be afraid of that, I guess.
I think more people have choked to death on butterflies in 5 years. I'm going to check that up.
Probably more people probably have
Very difficult stat to find.
Definitely from like bees, allergic reactions. All
COVID. Like, how many people under 20 died? And they looked everyone up. Like, they literally destroyed their life. Like, the developing years from, 16 to 20 are the most important years. So when you meet your girlfriend, when you go out, when you test the barriers of what's possible, when you drive your bike fast or whatever. And they destroyed this generation. And I think it was like 1% or less than 1% death rate in people under 20. Like, I might get fact checked right now.
Well,
No, I'm going for the
COVID's a very,
butterflies.
very interesting thing for me in terms of witnessing the long-term effects of it. Because social behavior is completely different post-COVID, especially for people within that age range. They're more isolated. They don't date as much. They're more online than ever before. Their entire identity is now separate from human interaction. You look at kids who are like, imagine you were 6 years old when COVID hit. Your next 3 years were like kept away from society.
Right.
Those are major developmental years in terms of how you perceive the world.
Yeah, you might get totally radicalized and turns into a trans furry loving person who has an online personality. Like
Wow,
that's where
amazing that you bring that up.
Who would think there's another story involving that?
So, changing tracks from the tragedy in the failed communist state formerly known as Canada, let's bring it back home to today's top story, where we are looking into what the heck is going on with Thomas Matthew Crooks, and why is the FBI lying to us about all of it? I mean, that last question is much more easily answered. It's because they suck.
Is that the answer?
they're not lying. They're just preemptively protecting the purity of information. I don't know.
You can't handle the truth.
I still have questions.
All right. So, new revelations about Thomas Matthew Crooks, the 20-year-old who attempted to assassinate President Donald Trump at a July 13, 2024 campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, have reignited controversy over federal transparency surrounding the case. New investigations by the New York Post and a 35-minute video released by Tucker Carlson present what both sides claim is Crooks' extensive hidden digital history, contradicting early FBI statements suggesting that investigators had found little online presence pointing to a motive or ideology. The FBI strongly disputes accusations of dishonesty, saying the Bureau never asserted Crooks had no online footprint, and they insist that the shooter acted alone. Here's what Tucker Carlson put out on November 13th. The FBI told us that Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump last summer, but somehow had no online footprint. The FBI lied, and we can prove it because we have his post. The question is why? And he promises the story tomorrow and drops this video. If you haven't seen the video, I highly recommend you go watch it. Some fascinating journalism he does there.
I'd say the 95% of it is what was known is known to people who were paying attention. There's a 5% the additional video of Thomas Crooks and some of the posts, which is new, and it confirms what we already knew.
And Miranda Devine from the New York Post also did some investigation. I believe a few other online journalists have gone and looked at these claims, assessed the validity of the posts and everything that Thomas Crooks made. All seems to check out. So if the FBI is saying that this guy had little to no online footprint, that's a little weird.
I don't know if you have it as one of the slides. Oh, you do have it right there. Booyah.
So this was the response from the FBI Rapid Response X account. This FBI has never said Thomas Crooks had no online footprint, ever. What's very interesting is that the FBI created this Twitter account the same day. They made this account specifically for the purpose of responding to Tucker's claims about their investigation.
No way.
It was wild. I thought it was a parody. At first. I don't know if people are looking at it. Bring it up just one more time because it's interesting. Not to say that I was once a lawyer for 13 years. I can think like a dirty, rotten scoundrel, or at least semantically, this FBI has never said it. That's true. This current FBI has never said it. Abate from the former FBI sure as hell said it. Bongino, relying on that information back in the day when he was testifying before Congress, I think he was taking answers from, giving answers to Chip Roy, sure as hell said, yeah, we're being told that this guy's got no online presence, and nobody believes it. I think Bongino at the time said, like, if he was a 65-year-old man, I could believe that he had less of a social media footprint.
Yeah.
A kid who's, living in the age of the internet, it's implausible. And so this FBI never said, okay, fine, but it got fact-checked quickly.
It got the community note, like you said, talking about how FBI Deputy Director Paul Abate disclosed a social media account believed to be associated with the shooter, but he went on to describe a general absence of other information to date from social media.
I want to believe that I was once a community notes dude, but it's politics there that makes it a wasteful time, but I'd like to think they picked on my tweet.
I just wonder, is the FBI that naive that because the internet can figure anything out very quickly, far faster than the FBI. You have a much bigger workforce on the internet.
That is the $1 million question. And I know Dan Bongino. I like him, and I do trust him. And I still have been saying it for a while. Like, I believe he's sort of like a peacock that wants to fly that is being hand-tied by superiors. There's also a possibility they're so stuck in their silo that they just don't appreciate. They think, okay, yeah, if we say it, they'll believe us because they trust us and they like us. We've known some of them for a long time. The internet will figure it out. There's no point in lying in life. And whether or not it's a lie, where they're going to say, well, it's true, this FBI never said it, it's deceptive in its phrasing. And it also gaslights the public who remembers it. We were paying attention to it. The current deputy director at the time was saying we don't believe it. Why the hell has there not been full transparency under this FBI?
And then we'll continue with the Thomas Crooks stuff in a minute, but like the way the FBI, particularly the Trump FBI, has spent the last 11 months burning through every shred of credibility they could have possibly had. Not the least of which is the whole thing with Kash Patel and his girlfriend right now, and for all I know, we're going to get sued for even talking about it. But Alexis Wilkins, the girlfriend of director of the FBI, Kash Patel, is now suing right-wing podcasters for alleging that she's a Mossad honeypot.
What's his name? Kyle Seraphin.
Elijah Schaefer.
And Sam Parker thus far.
Thus far, because they're probably going to continue with that. Patel's own network of lawyers is involved in this case, which opens up the director of the FBI to discovery, where he might have to submit texts that he exchanged with his girlfriend. It might be on its face an absurd claim to try to say that this girl who has apparently never even been to Israel is secretly a Mossad agent manipulating government events. But the fact that they're spending their time suing podcasters and firing people who report on where Kash Patel takes a government-funded jet instead of, investigating the guy who tried to shoot the president in the head.
Yeah, it's just why even give it energy? Because that seems to be the thing that gives things power nowadays, is if you put your energy or focus towards something and nobody's putting their focus. I remember, like, I made a list of all the things from the Crooks assassination attempt. That how did he get in with a rangefinder? Like all these crazy things.
How did he fly the drone at the same moment when they didn't have drone surveillance because they were on the phone with DJI? Like,
yes,
how was he
jammed at exactly that
How was
time.
he on the building where the cops were staged for security?
Yeah, I have a whole
perimeter.
list of things, and I was going crazy about this after it happened for like 2-3 weeks, and I'm like, something's going to happen. Same thing happened with the FISA abuse case, right? Tulsi Gabbard came out and said, we have FBI personnel who are testifying that Obama was involved in this whole plot. Nobody seems to care about anything anymore. There's no standards. It's like you have the craziest story come out that 10, 15 years ago would have turned the country upside down. And now it's like, no, just on to the next thing. Like, nobody cares about this.
Well, bring it back to what's her face, Alexis Wilkins. And just to say, I don't think she's a honeypot. It's a stupid theory because it's based on stupid facts. The connection is that she created content for PragerU. Marissa Streit from PragerU was in the IDF. It's a stupid theory. But people are allowed to have stupid theories. And I said it, I was like, not the Epstein effect, the Streisand effect. The Epstein effect's a little different. The Streisand effect is what it is. You put more attention on this. Like, Nick Fuentes did not become mainstream because of what he said. He became mainstream now because of the attacks on him from the
100%.
mainstream.
Nick Fuentes became part of the conversation the same way that weed got legalized, which is when a bunch of really annoying, persistent people demand something for a very long time. Eventually, it's going to happen just because you wear them down. Like, anytime Valuetainment would put out a thing like, hey, who do you want to see on one of our podcasts? A couple good suggestions and like 8,000 Nick Fuentes. And like, eventually, fine. We had Nick Fuentes.
No, but it's like, it's when someone becomes a big enough target, for lack of a better word, to be demonized by the mainstream media, people are like, okay, well, what does he have to say? So congrats, they made Fuentes mainstream.
You're right on the money. I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know this was a theory. I didn't know any of the guys involved. But now that they brought it up, I made a huge deal. I still think it's stupid. It's a stupid theory.
But we think it. But a lot of people, because there's people online every single time there's something that gets censored or attacked, I see the same comments. If they're trying to cover it up, it must be true. Mm-hmm. That is the mindset of a huge percentage. Because the trust you're talking the Canadian government has, the Canadian population has in its government.
Exact opposite here.
Yes. So there's a huge segment of our population who now distrusts everything mainstream.
You know what would have been enough for Cash to make a quick comment on it? He's like, hey, this is a ridiculous theory that's going around. We won't entertain it. Thank you very much for coming. And that's it.
And by the way, thank you for the compliment to suggest that my girlfriend is so hot that she must be an Israeli honeypot. But then, did you know that she's getting Secret Service protection even though she's not a wife or a spouse? Now we do.
This is why it's really kind of insane that we have government officials who have girlfriends. But like, I get, they're in relationships and everything, but like, for your relationship drama with someone who is not even your spouse to play out on this national of a scale where now government funds and government lawyers are being used to try to push defamation cases against people who just have stupid opinions. Well, I've now spent more time than I ever cared to, not only listening to Alexis Wilkins' music, which really is not even...
It's not bad.
It's not. Yeah, but it's not bad. But it's not great.
It's a guerrilla marketing campaign for her country music.
Mattel puts out a statement that says she's a country music superstar and an American patriot who's done more in 10 years for this country than you'll ever do in a lifetime. It's like, well, I've never heard any of her music. I listened to country music. I've never heard of Alexis Wilkins until this.
Look, I'm convinced. I'm convinced she's a nice person. She is smart. Mm-hmm. Her politics are I say based.
Sound.
Yeah, they're sound. I don't think she's the driving force of this, and I think she's going to realize this was a bad idea. And whoever had the idea for this, if they thought it was going to intimidate people into silence, I don't know if you saw the Elijah Schaffer defamation case. Mm-hmm. He didn't even say anything other than in response to a tweet about how Israel uses honeypots to infiltrate Iran and intelligence. He quote tweeted and put a picture of Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins. It could have been a freaking joke for all anybody knows, and now people are going to take that joke.
They're trying to run with the defamation by implication thing, but Viva, as you can attest, the standards for a defamation, it has to be false. They have to know it was false and say it anyway, and there has to be material harm caused by the state.
Defamation cases are hard.
No, and also like the implication is typically like, I'm not saying he committed fraud, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm implying strongly he did. This could have been a freaking joke, and now it's become a trope on the internet. Like you have the memes now of Winnie the Pooh, that song "Honey, Honey, Honey." Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are some hilarious versions about it, poking fun at Cash. And
now, from a morals and values, not a legal standard. Like I think, and being a gentleman, I think it's very uncouth to bring a spouse or a girlfriend into the conversation. Like I don't like when they do it. If you're gonna attack Kash Patel, just attack Kash Patel.
But big caveat: she's a prominent.
Anyone who's a public figure is sadly fair game. I have a big problem with going after someone's kids. Like when you start posting about,
the Attorney General of Virginia saying that he, his opponent's kids die.
And even though we're in the middle of the story, I'm still rooting for Cash. I want him to do a good job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but at some point, first of all, I'm still rooting for this administration. That sometimes means cutting the weak ends here because Cash has made a number of unforced errors in a number of prominent cases, not the least of which is the Charlie Kirk assassination. He's done himself no favors with some of his other behavior, some of his other extracurricular behavior, and they haven't provided answers to some of the most promised questions. Butler, Pennsylvania answers, January 6th pipe bomb answers, and to sit there and, I don't know, threaten lawsuits. They're not threatening lawsuits against Steve Baker, but I'm sure he's going to get sued. And to not answer the questions when there's been revelations, it causes people to lose trust in the people that we've had faith in. Like, nobody went Cash Patel thought that he was going to be
immediately cause people to lose trust. That's something I've noticed. It automatically empowers the opposite side of whatever argument.
And saying it's not Cash that's doing it, but it's his own personal attorney who's drafting it for Alexis Wilkins is a cop-out of a discrediting excuse for it. Oh, not me, it's just my lawyer and doing it for my girlfriend. Bullshit. I mean, that's the 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Exactly.
Man, I'm gonna get slaughtered in the chat, but can we set, like, I mean, the ideal that we have for the current FBI is up here. What they were before, like what
sure.
You know what I mean? Like, you guys don't remember what the FBI acted like before the new administration got in. Like, I think it's at least 50% better, 70% better than what they were. Like, remember when this originally happened? Like, the information that we got from the Biden administration. At least they're like, they might not get everything right, but they're still opening up things and talking about things. You know what I mean?
That's very big loser talk. And not to hold them to an impossible standard. My operating theory is that there's only so much of a radical change two individuals can do when 2/3 of the FBI as an institution are corrupt to the core. And I don't think Dan Bongino had, I think he's been skeptical of the rank and file of the cops who do the work, or the FBI agents who do the work. The fact that they don't think it needs a massive overhaul and a purging, like Harmeet Dillon purged in her civil rights division, like RFK's purging in the DHS division, it needs a purge. The fact that they still have faith in some of the very same actors who they've given raises to in some cases. So they haven't made the radical change that is needed for the FBI to regain credibility. And it's only getting worse.
And speaking of those FBI employees, here's what Kash Patel tweeted in his own defense and defense of the FBI regarding the Thomas Crooks investigation. Over 480 FBI employees were involved in the Thomas Crooks investigation. Employees conducted over 1,000 interviews, addressed over 2,000 public tips, analyzed data extracted from 13 seized digital devices, reviewed nearly 500,000 digital files, collected, processed, and yada yada. He goes on and on and on.
It's called your
talk
job.
About how much they're doing. And you know what? To their credit, maybe they are. But the fact that most people did not know some of the things that Tucker Carlson and Miranda Devine revealed in their independent investigations shows that the FBI is certainly not living up to its promise of being the most transparent administration we've ever had. Because here's some of the newly surfaced material, which allegedly includes 17 online accounts across platforms such as YouTube, Snapchat, Discord, Venmo, Zelle, DeviantArt, which I'll get back to in a second, and then weird ones like Quizlet, Chess.com, and Quora, along with email addresses linked to encrypted services.
He was on chess.com?
Yeah.
It's good to play chess.
DeviantArt's a cool website.
According to the reporting, Crooks left 737 public YouTube comments between 2019 and 2020, documenting a dramatic ideological shift, beginning as a fervent pro-Trump extremist who called for violence against Democrats, then flipping in early 2020 to anti-Trump rhetoric, criticizing the pandemic, embracing harsh lockdowns, and describing Trump supporters as a cult. I actually pulled a selection of those that we can read. In 2019... For example, he wrote, Ilan Omar and other invaders should honestly be killed and their dead bodies sent back.
How does that not warrant an immediate FBI investigation at the time?
He wrote in 2018, if you're saying Trump is a bad president, you aren't a patriot. Trump is the literal definition of patriotism. 7 hours after that, he wrote, I hope a quick and painful death to all the deplorable immigrants and anti-Trump congresswomen who don't deserve anything this country has given them. Later on, he wrote,
a quick and painful? Those are almost
every one of the Trump-hating Democrats deserves to have their heads chopped off and put on stakes for the world to see what happens when you F with America.
If there's an argument for red flag laws, I mean, that not to take the guns away, but to go visit the kid. Did they visit him? Was he known to FBI?
And but how many tweets and posts and things like this is the FBI actively investigating at all times and trying to monitor?
True, but I do wonder whether or not he even got punished on YouTube or sanctioned on YouTube.
You would hope.
Just to come back to something so people don't think I'm a total asshole, it's their job. Owen Schroyer a while back put out a video and it's like, okay, this taking victory laps on social media for doing what it is that you were hired to do at some point comes to an end and does not ratify or excuse
if you're inept, yes.
So they come. It's good. Like that's what the FBI. You have a lot of leads. Now the question is this: why hasn't this been disclosed to the public? And if this was known to the FBI at the time, my question is still going to be: was this kid radicalized himself? Coincidental timing or not? According to the evidence in the Charlie Kirk assassination, what's his face? Robinson was radicalized about a year ago. right about the time this kid did the exact same thing that Robinson did. And so I wonder, is there an MK Ultra element to this? Was this guy being used or manipulated to start some sort of acts of violence so that the FBI at the time could come in and say, look how radical these people are?
I think the evidence is there if you know where to look, because as with all these other school shooters and high-profile assassins, they're all plugged into the same Discord chats.
Yeah,
they all use
that's
the
what
same social media. It all happens in these online chat rooms where they get in contact with people from fringe ideologies, everything from transgenderism to Nazism. It's
The full spectrum.
It's this full spectrum, but it's also this weird amalgamation of every radical fringe ideology you can think of, where it all comes together to make people lose their minds. It's almost like it's a perfectly curated internet echo chamber to plug people into and make them lose their minds by constantly being inundated with every ideology under the sun. Because in 2020, Crooks shifted over to writing things like, Trump is radical, Trump is stupid. He mocked the idea of the deep state, saying the deep state is simply made up of anybody who disagrees with the right wing. Conversation over. He called Trump supporters brainwashed cultists.
That's such a deep state thing to say.
He embraced lockdowns. He even, ironically, blasted Tucker Carlson for implying that going to Chinese heritage parades could infect you with COVID. And he tried to call Tucker a racist. He wrote all sorts of manifestos and comments and everything. And neither his right-wing nor his left-wing comments ever seem to set off any of those monitoring systems that tell us we have.
Or they did.
Or it was exactly...
Well, there is a... Sorry, go ahead.
No. I think this is a sign of the internet. Like back in my day, I was always...
Back in my day.
Back in my day, like when the internet fell alive, because now the internet is dead. We can get into a theory later. You will find fringe ideas around the normal web, but not radical extreme ideas. You will really have to go out of your way and go to like a white national socialist forum, like a black communist, this and that, a Chinese Mao support group. Like you really need to go out of your way, like a furry website. Like you really need to search a community to find it. And since social media platforms, they drove anything French, not even bad, anything French, they drove it out of the mainline platforms, is going underground into places like Discord that they're like private and open at the same time, and things just get worse and worse and worse. I have you guys been to DeviantArt?
No, I used to. DeviantArt used to be like a legitimate art website.
It used to be.
That's when I used it like back in the day.
The deviant in the title is a little misleading because it's not meant for primarily disgusting pornographic
I remember
stuff.
when it was like DeviantArt.
That's when I know it.
Yeah.
It just sort of became that.
I didn't even know that it
probably
became that.
10 years ago.
It's like an open art platform. I mean, you as former users would know it better than I would because I've never used it, because I only know it as a place people go to post like disgusting.
Have you looked on it on your computer?
No.
I'm not even doing it on my phone.
But I mean, you still need to dig a little bit and inside the website to get to the...
It's sort of like how on X you can basically access hardcore pornography anytime you want if you know how to search for more than just like one thing.
I discovered that after an episode of Howard Stern where they were talking about a particular sex festival within a certain community and involving certain hand parts, and I was like, oh my God. And I went to this guy's hand, I was like, that's on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter has a lot of weird stuff. But there's a bigger problem here. Everything points, and we kind of touched on it last time I was on the show, about like there's a deep issue with nihilism in society. So you have a bunch of young men who are nihilistic. They have no identity. Because you could see his identity switched 10 times in 2 years. Like he would jump onto whatever was giving him value at the time. So if you take a bunch of young men who are full of testosterone, who are being ostracized also, there was a lot of identity politics being played at the time, and still being played today, and you put them in a situation where they can go online and they can say, now I matter, now I'm important, this is where my value's coming from. That's why I always talk about God. That's how you save these people. They're going to end up just getting sucked in. There's a huge percentage of our population that is now ready to be indoctrinated by, and it doesn't matter which direction you take them in. It doesn't matter if it's the Nazi direction or if it's the furry direction.
He says gesturing at me.
No. Or the Nazi direction, the furry direction, and the transfer.
And the bestiality. You're right, and my thought immediately goes to if you wanted to have Trump assassinated at the time from a deep state that wanted him dead after they failed to jail him, failed to bankrupt him, and he was leading and looking like he was going to get elected, you infiltrate these deranged Discord chats or whatever the hell it is, and you say, and you find the guys who you know are mentally unstable already. You encourage it, you facilitate it, and then you track them. You know where they are. You don't have to push them anywhere. They're going to go, and you make sure that the opportunity is there, that security doesn't stop the guy of a person of interest who had a rangefinder for an hour before, that you let Trump take the stage, even though the person of interest has now disappeared into the crowd with a Pac-Man perimeter of a roof that's not covered. And
There's only 2 roofs, by the way. 2 roofs. One with a larger slope than the roof they claimed had too high a slope.
And then, there's also that water tower in the background that no one's
I
ever
still
really
haven't-
been able to
I haven't-
explain, but
I haven't adhered to the second
yeah,
shooter theory.
there's some weird stuff back there. The thing that has always led me to believe that it was Thomas Matthew Crooks on the roof shooting at Trump was that he missed. If it was some trained Fed guy and he was just up there as a patsy, like, they wouldn't have missed. They wouldn't have gone for a headshot. And before you try to come at me and say, oh, the whole thing was fake, it was teleprompter glass, explain that to Corey Compertor's family.
No,
who buried a husband.
there was a real bullet, but then he
Hero.
pulled a WWE
Absolute
thing where he
hero.
cut his own ear.
It's insanity.
But come on, let's. I mean, I don't know if this is. Look, if I was heading the FBI, anyone that is into like gay Nazi wolves goes on the list. I'm sorry, like no question asked.
I'm not disagreeing with gay Nazi wolves going on a list.
Like anyone that is into gay Nazi wolves goes on the list immediately.
And
like,
look, I'm not
I-
in favor generally of government lists of citizens, but
come on, dude, come on.
like don't make a list of anyone who's like looking at Nazi content, even though it's a little bit concerning. Don't look at anybody who's just looking at wolves or just looking at gay stuff, even though all of those are gross.
But when you
check 3 or more boxes,
when you combine the boxes,
Gay wolves, not so bad. Nazi wolves, kind of a cool cartoon.
but gay
Nazi wolves,
You're out.
you're on a list. Congrats. You ain't flying anywhere.
who hasn't ended up on the Nazi wolf
And
propaganda site by
you're
accident?
getting raided, guy. You're getting raided. That's it.
Considering that the Biden FBI used to do the Biden FBI used to do 3 a.m. raids on pro-lifers who would protest outside abortion
the
clinics.
stuff that happened with the pro-life community is bonkers. They would legit send SWAT to pastors' homes.
They wanted people to get killed based on an overreaction to an unsuspecting
I
SWAT.
agree with what Humberto said earlier about, like, look, I get it's better than where we came from, but it's the same thing of just because it's better for the country that Trump won than Kamala Harris, that doesn't mean Trump is doing everything he should be doing or that he's doing a great job of the things he is doing. So
it's not a pass for what is abject, apparent incompetence on certain issues. And you go back to the Crooks and everything we know that the guy was training at ranges that had feds and local law enforcement. The kid looks, I mean, I'm not to judge the way people look. He looks a little off. And if I see a kid like that on holidays where you're supposed to be at home with family or friends shooting it at a range, you got to wonder, did they have him on a radar beforehand? Was he used? And did they facilitate it so that Trump gets whacked going into the election? And I know what I believe.
It's not far-fetched. If you look at just, again, all the things the government has done to try and prevent Trump from very public things to very, again, the FISA stuff, the Steele dossier, they were willing to do anything. So if they're willing to violate literally anything, I'm not exaggerating.
Anything.
So for me, is it a big jump that they would spy on him from spying on American citizens, taking the full use of the government to try and vilify Trump in every physical way, trying to arrest Trump, trying to ruin his life, to the next step of, hey, there's this huge group of people online who are nihilistic, they have no identity, and with a little bit of a push, they'll end up doing exactly what we want them to do. That's not a crazy concept.
No, but then the question is going to be, why would this FBI not want to blow the lid off that FBI's corruption? And then the question has to be like, there's only 2 reasons why they wouldn't if it's true. Like, if this is true of the former FBI, this one would say, like, look how corrupt they were. And there's only 2 reasons why they couldn't do it, is if it would expose what would be nationally destabilizing for faith in government.
Yes.
Or if they've actually continued to employ some of these players unwittingly, or brought them over to the CIA, or given them raises, and it would show the abject incompetence of this FBI. So there's no good reason, if it's true, and we can suspect it is. You have to think of why this FBI would not want to disclose it, and why they would create an FBI rapid response to create what is ostensibly an incorrect and misleading statement about Tucker Carlson, which was a statement that Dan Bongino at the time himself affirmed. So,
and there's also the fact that, like we were talking about, on DeviantArt, all of the accounts that were found linked to Thomas Matthew Crooks had they, them pronouns and furry fetish content on there. And that is of material relevance to this case in the same way that they suppressed the manifesto of the Covenant school shooter in Nashville.
We're still waiting.
Well, we've gotten drips and drabs of it over the years. Every single bit of it affirming the fact that this was a delusional transgender person who hated white people, hated Christians, and wanted to kill their children to make them suffer because she hated herself. Or
Jay Jones has to love that.
Yeah,
And only when they feel the pain will they decide to shift their their gun perspective and their trans perspective.
Or the Annunciation Catholic school shooting just earlier this year.
Yeah.
Another transgender shooter who had the same kind of manifesto, wrote extensively about his hatred of Christians, his hatred of life, drew pictures of himself talking to demons in the mirror and saying that the voice he heard coming out of himself wasn't his voice anymore. All of this is relevant. It makes perfect sense why people who are brainwashed into these delusional sexual fetish gender ideologies go on to do this kind, because they go hand in hand.
Well, yeah, I think they're both symptoms of each other. I don't think it's necessarily that one cause.
It's just another pipeline. Like
Yeah.
the extreme categories of porn, the extreme gender ideologies, the fringe political ideologies, they all converge. They all lead to the same thing. And that's why we keep getting these incidents.
All right, let's break this down further. Tucker Carlson, he does these claims, he posts this. I would like to live in a timeline where the FBI goes like, wow, that's incredible work, Tucker. We're going to look into it. Congratulations for you doing your citizen journalism. That's a timeline that I thought I was going to live in.
Yep.
That's a timeline that but do you think his latest, I don't know, he's been adversarial to the mainline government, you think that has something to do with them discrediting this investigation?
It certainly doesn't help.
Just look inept also. If the FBI came out and said, hey, we just didn't know.
But I think
That's not-
there's a step above.
Sorry, go for it.
No. Yeah, but you know what I'm
Well, no,
getting
for
at.
sure. Like and I said, like for a PR, I don't think they could afford me. But yeah, the proper response would be: these are very troubling allegations. We will look into it. Thank you very much, Tucker. We'd like to work with you. Much like with Steve Baker and the January 6th. These are very serious allegations. We will work hand in hand with you, not to, in Tucker's case, try to debunk it with bull crap and make him look like a liar when he's not. And in the Jan 6 case, not to say nothing for the pipe bomber and Steve Baker's breaking journalism. And or if they have investigated that woman that he alleges is the pipe bomber and subsequently exonerated her, confirm it. I mean,
She's been exonerated?
well, from what I understand, and if the reporting is accurate, they They cleared her 2 weeks into, like, by January 21st, and then she went to work for the CIA.
Boy.
Which makes no sense unless it makes sense. And if you wanted to disappear someone from social media footprint presence, you take them from the FBI, you ship them to the CIA. The CIA scrubs your internet presence, and it becomes even more difficult for the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs to investigate the potential link.
I think all of us were delusional conspiracy theorists for saying there were federal operatives on the ground at January 6th. And then, sure enough, years later, multiple disclosures. There was like 270 something of those guys.
Oh, they were
mixed in
just
with the
they were
crowd.
just there.
They were just
They were called in at
yeah.
the last minute to keep the peace.
I don't know how people could see the videos that Tucker released about Jan 6 and not say something weird was going on. Like, there's millions of people who saw those videos, like the handshakes, doors opening, and they still tell me no, it was the most violent. It was
It was violent. The alleged Jan 6 pipe bomber is the one who was sitting there firing rubber bullets at people's faces and upper torsos to try to provoke a violent response from the crowd. It is the bottom line. Also, like Tucker's recent expose, I'm seeing new video of Thomas Crooks that I was told didn't exist. That requires an explanation, not attacking the messenger.
Yeah. And speaking of those odd connections, let's look at one more thing before we wrap on this segment. This was from Miranda Devine's reporting with the New York Post. Among the 17 accounts uncovered by our source, only one on PayPal was operated under an alias, Rod Swanson. Rod Swanson is a former senior FBI agent who was the chief of investigations for the state of Nevada during the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. He also previously served on FBI Director Robert Mueller's protective detail and as a firearms instructor in Pennsylvania. Contacted by phone over the weekend, Swanson said he was surprised his name was connected to Crooks. Quote, I don't know anything about that kid or his family. He said, I don't even use PayPal. I don't even know how to set up a PayPal account. He said he retired from the FBI in Vegas in 2016 and went to work for the Nevada Attorney General from September 2015 to March 2020. He now works in the oil and gas business in Houston. And it goes on to say, this might be like a weird inside joke with Crooks by himself because he extensively researched other mass shootings and he might have stumbled upon Rod Swanson, maybe the association of Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. He thought it was funny.
That's what I thought.
He might have done that name. According to Rod Swanson, he has no idea why Thomas Matthew Crooks' PayPal account was under his name. But that's a little weird.
It's a little.
It could be an FBI firearms instructor who investigated the 2017 Las Vegas shooting.
It's also
strange.
like what's the word? It's pretty esoteric. Also, like unless you that requires a high degree of like material. Like I'm thinking if I were going to go with somebody's name to make it, if my inside joke, who's the guy that broke the CIA crack dealings? Webb.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go with an iconic name. Not who the hell knows who this guy is. That's weird.
And you know what caught me the most off guard? I don't know anything about that kid. I don't use PayPal. I don't know how to set up a PayPal account.
That's pretty retarded.
Like, that's just an overreaction right there. Anyone can set up a PayPal account.
What is that?
How does one do this? How does one put in an email?
What is this sorcery?
If
you can change
FBI
money on the
guy
internet?
who was in charge of investigating the Las Vegas shooting doesn't know how to set up a PayPal account, that might explain why it's up to podcasters like us to try to figure out what happened. Go watch our video from last month on the Las Vegas shooting. Really good episode. We're
next week you're going to see like Rod Swanson on the internet like, oh my goodness, I've just sent money to another person.
I had no idea this was possible.
For me, it was the first part. Like,
Why is he British?
I don't know. I'm just going with Stewie for some reason. It was the first part. Like I don't know anything about the kid. We all know something about the kid. If this guy was in FBI, also like the fact that he's in law enforcement, I presume is interested in these assassination attempt stories.
But look at this quote down at the bottom. I want to get to that as well. Quoting again from Swanson, no matter how ridiculous the allegation, no matter if it's COVID or not, somebody is going to knock on somebody's door, Swanson said. If they investigated that kid, there's a record of it. And if there's an assessment that some leader made that this was not a threat or it rose to a level and they did something else. He also said that, quote, if the FBI had that information about his name on the PayPal account, I can't even imagine that they would not have reached out to me right away. So even the guy who's implicated in it is saying, like, if the FBI was aware of this guy, there's a record. Why is there no record? Also, why did nobody reach out to me when they found my name on his account?
That's interesting. That's almost not throwing the FBI under the bus. He's saying I was not investigated, and I presume I would have been had they known that his name was on using my name for a thing. That's but that's a lot of
semi-throwing the FBI under the bus. Again, it comes back to either they're inept or something.
Or they were hiding something.
So I had on Kyle Seraphin, who's one of the former FBI whistleblower, alleged whistleblower. Some people say, well, what did he blow the whistle on? But he's a whistleblower, and he was saying that his number one red flag is this woman goes from FBI or Capitol Police to CIA. Right around the same time that she was allegedly investigated, and she happened to be living the literal next door to the guy that he was placed on detail to go and what's it called when they do the stakeout? Literally next door because it was a subway pass that was being used to identify the house to surveil, and this woman lived literally next door to that guy. Astronomically low probability of that happening coincidentally.
What are the odds?
I mean, before we close, it's not all of them. Like some of the FBI, they're like God-fearing Americans.
100%.
They keep everyone safer. They do investigations. It's still a law enforcement agency. Like
technically, it should not be law enforcement agency. You got state law enforcement agency. It's a federal creation.
It's a federal bureau. But there's some of them that do incredible work. They have a family. They go to work every day, and we only hear the bad things about them. Mm-hmm. Right? Every time they mess up or they miss something, that's when we talk about them. Because that's how it's supposed to be. It's like being a golly,
because the violation of civil rights in our country is inexcusable when it comes from government power. So
it is inexcusable.
So you're gonna, no matter how good they are, it's the same reason you see overreactions when there's something tragic that happens with the police. So you're right. You don't want to vilify the entire FBI, but there are systemic issues within the FBI right now. And again, I'm still stuck on the recent stuff with Tulsi and all that. But the very fact, like FBI agents were signing off emails knowing that the information to get warrants from FISA courts, which should protect your rights more than anyone. They were abusing that to spy on people, to arrest them, to try and stop the incoming president. Like, really think about that. That's,
Kevin Kleinsmith lied, falsified evidence that was submitted. This is the FBI's attorney. And if you think the FBI's attorney is literally falsifying evidence saying that Carter Page was not an asset when he was a known asset, submitting it to a FISA court, and he gets not even a slap on the wrist. He gets like a back massage practically. There are systemic institutional problems. And yet we're not, for non-political investigations, they're good. When you are dealing with an entity that has 30 some odd thousand employees, and you can say 10,000 of them are rabidly anti-Trump, who weaponize their access to power and monopoly of violence and investigative measures to persecute their citizens in the name of their political ideology, they may be good people in there. The entire institution needs to be disbanded. It's unnecessary, and it serves no purpose that state law enforcement does not serve.
No.
yeah.
And in keeping with the theme of institutional corruption and incompetence at the FBI, let's change to something a little more lighthearted, a little more.
Speaking of gay Nazi war,
Totally acceptable.
Here we go.
Yeah. The Epstein stuff. I said at the top of the episode that you can get a little bit of Epstein fatigue every now and again in this line of work where you're like, okay, there's
Nope.
still no answers. Maybe what if we took a week off from talking about Epstein and broadened our horizons a little bit? Let's investigate some other interesting things. As soon as we wrapped last week's episode, we start seeing things. Oh, the House Democrats on the Oversight Committee are releasing documents, and Trump is in Epstein's emails. What's going on?
He spent hours with the victim of Epstein's crimes.
So there's a lot of stuff to get through. A few rather salacious things I'd want to address, but first we have to do our due diligence and actually talk about what it is that happened. So, late last week, House Democrats sparked a political firestorm after releasing 3 selectively chosen Jeffrey Epstein emails that referenced President Donald Trump, claiming the documents raised serious questions about Trump's awareness of Epstein's crimes. But within hours, internet sleuths and the Republican Party as well pointed out the Democrats had redacted the name of the alleged victim mentioned in the emails. This was what it looked like when it came out. This was an email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, where you can see they've redacted the name of the victim. Well, as it turns out, this is all information we already knew, and it's Virginia Giuffre, who was among the most vocal of Epstein's victims, but also repeatedly spoke out saying she knew Donald Trump, they spent time together, he was never inappropriate, he never flirted. She used to work for him at Mar-a-Lago before she was poached by Ghislaine Maxwell. In fact, Maxwell poaching her from Mar-a-Lago along with some other girls is why Trump made Epstein stop coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brought him from Mar-a-Lago.
So one of those emails, let me see here. That's it. That's the one we're looking at right now, where he said he knew about it. He asked Ghislaine to stop. When I first read that, I was like, oh, that's why Trump was afraid to release this, because they're going to say Trump, when the Trump asked her to stop, was about the child sex trafficking, where this was, in fact, from what I understand, about the poaching of employees from Mar-a-Lago. And so I do wonder if someone internally, which would explain the whole debacle of the 180 Trump shifting position on this to not wanting to release it, if they said, no, they're going to argue, Trump, that you knew about the sex trafficking and that you knew what Ghislaine was doing, and that when you offered to, when you contemplated a pardon, or you said, I hadn't really thought about it, that they're going to say, look, he's contemplating pardoning someone who he knew was child sex trafficking, but that's not the context of that email from what I understand.
Yeah.
They will really take anything out. Nothing pisses me off than when people try and vilify someone based on fake data and taking a little segment out of context. And again, how do they not think people are not going to check out who the victim is, and that the victim has personally already exonerated Trump of any wrongdoing?
Under oath and in her book.
And in a very positive way. Not even like, I don't know, like she was adamant about the fact he never got massages. He was very respectful. So what is the intention here other than to hope that like brainwashed, indoctrinated automatons are going to read this and push on the internet, and that the truth will be drowned out because people are going to see this?
I'll tell you what it is. It's to go back to Thomas Crooks. It's because Democrats know that they have a rabid, prone to violence base who will react impulsively based on incorrect information and not even care about it. And they're trying to trigger, pun intended, somebody on the left say, he's a pedophile. Look at this, it's a pedophile. And now we've got to go do something. I mean, that's what they're doing. That's called the dog whistle for a reason. And that's exactly what it is.
And I'll call attention to this because this was a stance Trump had taken relatively recently. And it's a line he's used multiple times. The Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. This was posted right at the tail end of the shutdown. He was saying they were releasing these emails to try to distract from how they were, continuing to keep the government held hostage so they could get illegal immigrants health care and everything like that. But he's used this line, the Jeffrey Epstein hoax, the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. We talked about that truly terrible optic moment where he came out right after they said, there's no files there. He said, anyone who continues to ask about this is a bad person and I don't want their support. For me, that was like, okay, I guess I'm not a Trump supporter anymore then. If he doesn't want my support, I'm going to keep asking questions.
That was where people were saying his 4D chess. Look, he's getting the Democrats. I said, no, but the thing, there's 4D chess. You don't need that play in your 4D chess to alienate the people. Like, fuck, you're going to tell me now? First of all, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because I think it's right. And B wanted to do this up until yesterday. And now you're going to alienate your supporters and think that that's how you get reelected or do well in midterms. It was an unnecessary mistake, even if he was, playing some strategy here.
Yeah, I can't. He'll flip flop on things randomly. I can't even follow the consistency in what he. But I told you before the show. I was like, man, I really wonder if Trump was just trying to instigate the Democrats to say no, release. And
he did not need to alienate his most loyal base.
Doesn't make sense.
He also didn't need to hang his entire Department of Justice out to dry by making them look like incompetent, corrupt people. Where Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino have been catching so much flack from us because of how they've handled it.
Well, I think Bondi deserves
yes.
it, and I do wonder if Bondi and Wiles are not the reason why Trump is making these unforced mistakes, because they're convincing him to do it for his own self-preservation when the full release would be the most exonerating thing imaginable.
And he keeps saying the Epstein hoax, and when we were talking about this before the show, I argue the reason he's calling it a hoax isn't because he's saying nothing happened with Epstein. It's because he's saying what the Democrats are trying to bring up now is anytime Epstein ever mentioned me, that's what they want.
Yes.
And you should be very careful what you believe about these things because look at the sources. It is the Democrats who sat on the files for an entire administration. And, we'll get into a little bit more of the connections they had with Epstein even back before that.
It's wild.
But they're actually crazy.
But they're saying now, after years of silence where no Democrat would touch the Epstein files, suddenly when it's a chance to ding Trump, we're going to dig through them. And that's why when Thomas Massey is backing petitions to get the Epstein files released, which just passed, by the way, because they got a new member of Congress who signed on to it. It's a little bit weird when you have this coalition of the Republicans Trump hates and the Democrats who are now trying to compel the files to be released. But Trump says he has nothing to hide. So House Republicans and Democrats are poised to unite this week in an overwhelming vote to force the Justice Department to release all unclassified federal records related to Jeffrey Epstein. After initially pressuring Republicans to block the measure, Trump has now urged the GOP to back full disclosure, saying, quote, "We have nothing to hide." There's a headline about that. And he was posting on Truth Social saying, nothing to hide. I did nothing wrong. The Republicans should be all in favor of getting this out. There's that lengthy Truth Social post. We'll leave that on screen so you can read as we talk here.
The argument that was being offered was that he was now convinced that the Democrats had implanted fake evidence in there to incriminate him. And and that explains his turnaround, and that explains why we should support him. I'm like, that is the dumbest excuse imaginable. They had full control over the files for 4 years.
Yeah.
They had control over those files for the 6 months before he took office after the election. If they wanted to fabricate evidence, they could have and would have done it then. And if there was incriminating evidence, they could have and would have released it then. And then people say, no, Viva, they couldn't release it on Trump without releasing it on everybody, so they had to protect Trump. Oh, okay, so then the Democrats are protecting pedophiles by their own rationale. None of it makes any sense, and Trump has just gotten some wildly bad advice. Like I say, he comes up with nicknames, and some are better than others. The Jeffrey Epstein hoax is a bad one because it makes it sound like the crimes were the hoax and not the manner in which the Democrats are trying to weaponize that information.
And he's gone out of his way to make it clear, like he thinks the whole thing is a hoax, even though he's mad that the Democrats are using it against him. He's got his DOJ out there saying, no, Epstein never trafficked to anybody.
Yeah, that was a very weird
The tens of thousand files on my desk and the hours and hours of video footage, that's nothing. And then get some influencers to the White House to take a picture with a binder of information that we've had since 2019.
Unredacted.
Unredacted, of course.
So the only thing you touched on it previously, when something so bad comes out, it can actually destabilize the country. that was something in my head that I was like, can a president really release all the information if it ends up destabilizing our country? There's some risk there associated with, because how systemic is it? How deep is even the stuff that we're covering today soon, right?
Yes. As soon as you're done with this,
it's totally insane to me. That to me is enough to cause serious.
And just before you get into that, I'll say before people are going to say destabilizing it because it's going to reveal how we've been colluding with Israel and it's going to throw it. That's one thing. It's plausible. I think other intelligence have been involved. If it hypothetically it turns out that the CIA was using known pedophiles and giving them what they wanted so they can get what they wanted, like selling crack to inner city to LA, might not be as bad as it could get. And then you're like, holy shit, this is how we've been doing diplomacy. This is how we've been doing law enforcement. Yeah, but unfortunately, if a government needs to stand on protecting pedophiles because you can't disclose it, that government does deserve to crumble.
And this is just a clip I wanted to play real quick here. Many of the Epstein victims who have come out and publicly shared their stories made this video that was circulating in support of the petition to release the files. And I want us to all to remember this is what it's actually about: justice for the women who actually suffered at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, whoever they may be. Talk repeatedly about how let justice be done though the heavens fall. These are the women who deserve justice. These are the people who need answers. So let's take a look at what they had to say. What happened there? There we go.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
Whether you like it or not, it's well done. The question is this, and I'm not sure that I have the full Steelman answer. Why can they not just name their abusers?
They have named some of them. They've given.
I mean, I've heard some
partial
names.
explanations, but there's all sorts of legal stuff involved in this, and of course, you'd like to see them violate that, but
they could throw away the entire case.
Yeah,
and then we lose credibility. So
yeah.
So I mean, the Steelman, from what I've told, is they've signed NDAs in the case of some civil settlements. They've named some, Prince Andrew being one obvious one. Who's the other one that they named? There were a few big names. But people are saying, like, this was one of the legitimate criticisms against Massey on this issue is he said he had the names, he's got immunity. Why doesn't he just name them?
Yeah.
Which, I guess the answer is do that as a last resort, but that would open up a whole world of hellfire to Massey.
This is the thing. There's all sorts of political gamesmanship going on here. They're wheeling and dealing, and I want to disclose these files because they hit the people I hate, but I want to keep these censored because they protect the people I like. And we just want transparency. We want answers. We want justice.
In a perfect world, these videos and videos of the 1,000 women would be playing every day, all day for people to see, so that it's just hammered into public perception.
Yeah.
So
the public is all on board.
Yeah.
Play that in Congress. Anytime the House of Representatives is in session, that video has to play before the start of their session.
like black pill Humberto is coming in hot because I don't like all the files. What are all the files? Do we know we have all the files?
Well,
are they going to release everything? I don't know. How do we know that they're releasing everything? Do we have a ledger of what files they should release?
You might not even have a meaningful portion of the file to release.
Administration, how tampered with files?
But also, what might not have been investigated when Acosta came in 2008 to give the guy the deal. I mean, there was that which was not investigated, which has probably been largely destroyed.
Yeah. And this is the point of, like, we're at a stage now. They could say, you know what? You're absolutely right. We have screwed up. We have not been as transparent as we should be. Here is every Epstein file we have. Who's going to believe that? Who's going to say, Thank you, Pam Bondi. Thank you, Kash Patel. Thank you, Biden administration, for your work of preserving these records. We're going to go through them and say, fake, redacted, fake. You changed that. You censored this. You burned all the files you didn't want us to see. We don't trust you anymore.
That's true.
There's no win for any of us.
You're
here.
damn if you do, you're damn if you don't.
Well, I disagree. There's been a little bit of a win this week. Now we find out that Michael Wolff, the so-called journalist, literally colluding with Epstein to try to suborn blackmail, extortion material against Trump, which Epstein didn't have. Who's the other one? Obama's involved in it. I mean, this is great.
I got the list here. Let's get into some of the salacious accusations, because this was actually the main point.
It's documented. These are not allegations anymore. Unless these are doctored emails, it's black and white.
Yeah, because while Trump actually came out of that whole thing looking okay,
squeaky clean,
he actually looked like he's being persecuted. But
a lot of other people did not come through as unscathed. The newly released Epstein files reveal that he was a lot more connected than any of us had previously thought. Disgraced author Michael Wolff appears in a cache not as a detached reporter, but as a kind of political consigliere, repeatedly urging Epstein to weaponize his past ties to Donald Trump. In 2015 to 2016, Wolff told Epstein he could be the Trump bullet, advised him to let Trump hang himself on questions about their relationship. I believe I have that email right here. Trump was trying to get Epstein to use his connection to Trump to sink the 2016 campaign. And then saying if this came out, it could save Epstein by generating a debt if Trump won.
And just to highlight something, because this is Michael Wolff, the man who had access to the White House afterwards, trying to suborn extortion from Epstein on Trump. And Trump is actually so clean that Epstein doesn't have bona fide extortion material on Trump. Just let that set it.
The documents also reveal an unusually intimate relationship between Epstein and former Treasury Secretary and Harvard President Larry Summers. Well after Epstein's 2008 conviction, Summers was emailing him for advice on women, forwarding messages from a London contact and asking him if ignoring her was the right move, while Epstein analyzed her behavior and coached Summers on how to respond.
You know what that shows? Admiration.
Yes.
Is it the bathtub guy? I'm sitting here in your bathtub drinking champagne. I can't wait for you. You remember that email?
I don't remember that one.
I'm sure you didn't dream that.
No. And someone in the chat will find it. Oh boy, this guy. This might get me in trouble. I don't trust him at all.
Michael Wolff?
Wolff.
Yeah.
Of
course not.
Is there any legal implications for?
I don't know. It's kind of crazy because it's almost conspiracy to commit extortion, which that's with Wolff.
Well, extortion,
and this is
potentially
to suborn extortion.
The craziest part of it is this is post 2008 when he was already a registered sex offender. So the fact that these people continue associating with him, and not just but intimate relationship,
giving him advice, asking for advice. Ehud Barak taking millions of dollars for his cybersecurity.
Yeah.
This is old news.
On that point, another thing that was revealed by these emails, Epstein's self-styled role as a geopolitical advisor also surfaces in a 2018 exchange with former Norwegian Prime Minister and Council of Europe chief Thorbjorn Jagland. Epstein claimed he had helped Russia's late UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin understand Trump and urged Jagland to suggest to Vladimir Putin that Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meet with him for similar insights, describing Trump as a man who, quote, simply must be seen to get something. Whether Moscow ever took him up on it is unknown, but emails show Epstein actively pitching himself as someone who could brief world leaders on the American president.
He said he didn't.
And that makes perfect sense because we just reported a few weeks ago that Jeffrey Epstein was helping Israel negotiate peace agreements with the Russian government by going to the Kremlin and talking to people in the Russian government.
Allegedly.
So this guy has government ties in dozens of countries.
Well, let's talk government ties. He was live texting Stacey motherfucking Plaskett during a congressional hearing.
That's crazy.
Giving her advice on what to ask Michael Cohen.
Yep.
That's bonkers.
So,
if it were a book or a movie, you'd say, this is too stupid. Nobody's texting a convicted sex offender pedophile while they're sitting in Congress.
Which, first of all, I didn't even remember up until this broke that there was a delegate from the Virgin Islands in Congress.
Non-voting.
Who could sit on panels and be involved in depositions.
She was on the weaponization of the federal government investigative or whatever, the oversight committee, threatening to jail Matt Taibbi for his journalism on Twitter. I remember that at the time. This woman is literally the face of incompetence, stupidity, and evil.
So what happened there? Well, among the most striking revelations in the emails is that Epstein was in real-time contact with Delegate Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands during a high-profile February 27, 2019 House Oversight Committee hearing at which Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen testified against his one-time boss. Texts show Epstein watching the hearing and messaging Plaskett as she prepared to question Cohen, flagging that he had to mention longtime Trump aide Ronna Graff. And clarifying to Plaskett that Graff was Trump's assistant after she replied, "Quick, I'm up next, is that an acronym?" Epstein also urged her to press Cohen on other henchmen at the Trump Organization, shortly before Plaskett used her time to ask Cohen for additional names. Epstein also texted "good work" roughly 1 minute after her questioning ended. The messages also show Plaskett initiating contact with Epstein before the hearing, texting him that Cohen would, quote, talk about his grades, and Epstein responding with a question about Trump's unreleased college transcripts. During the hearing, Epstein sent casual remarks as well, including compliments on Plaskett's outfit and a comment about her appearing to chew on camera. So this is like live texting the year he got arrested and sent to jail.
Yeah.
That's 2019. This is Epstein's last year alive.
And
killed himself.
But this is a decade after he's a known sex offender. Stacey Plaskett, not for nothing, was begging Jeffrey's entourage for financial support when she was running in the British Virgin. Oh, by the way, where's his little sex island?
The Virgin Islands.
The Virgin Islands. So these are not coincidences. This is systematic. And she, how does she continue to show her face in public after this?
Well, that's
no idea.
to me, but there's no standards for anything anymore. She'll be fine.
You would think texting a pedophile would be live while in Congress, and the Washington Post, as shit as they are, actually got linked up the text message, and you could see her in a hearing with Michael Cohen, who's another. It's criminality, and this is the government, or at least
I mean, it's shocking because how far will Democrats go? Like, who are they not willing to associate with so long as it serves their purpose, so long as it pushes them forward somehow? It's really a psychotic thing.
The ends justify the means. They will ally with Satan himself if it will further.
Literally Satan himself.
They've done throughout history. There's no stopping for them.
There's no one worse than Jeffrey Epstein. You can't become a worse person than Jeffrey Epstein. He's at right up there.
I'm just trying to I don't know, you could throw. No, I can't make any jokes, but it's just crap. It would.
You're
talking about child sex abuse and human trafficking. There's nothing
for power and gain. Because one thing is, it's just you're a degenerate and you're the worst, but this makes it even worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is not like a mental condition where you're whatever.
Degenerate,
but this is someone who literally was willing to consciously abuse children.
Worst thing you can do. That is the worst thing you can do, and he's weaponizing and making money and gaining.
I think it's worse than murder. To me personally, the abuse of children in the way that he did it is. I consciously have a harder time. Like it does something to me.
That's certainly tantamount to murder.
Well, there's the legal argument is though it can't be because then there's going to be nothing deterring them from killing the kids after they sexually abuse them. But the issue is it's a form of death because they're taking
Killing
something
innocent.
fundamentally innocent and ruining their lives for and they can hopefully heal from that. Some of them try to, but you're destroying a life.
Are friendly with him. They're assssociating with him.
She wouldn't give back the money that she got for a little while. Like it took 6 months of forcing her.
What is going on in society?
No one has been able to explain this in the week since these emails came out. How did congressional Democrats have Jeffrey Epstein's personal cell phone number?
2019.
How is he able to just send a text? Oh, yeah, I got my guy in Congress right now.
They go ask for Bill Clinton.
Exactly.
Hey, Bill, what's Jeff's number? Oh, he's get him next time he comes to the White House. I mean, that was earlier, but it's inexcusable and to claim ignorance. Ehud Barak saying I didn't know of his history.
He was staying at his house where he had the massage tables.
Like the former Prime Minister of Israel is going to meet with anybody without doing a background check. Like he's going to take millions of dollars for his cybersecurity, video hosting business and not do a due diligence on it. It's laughably stupid. And you check the criminal history of someone who babysits your kids or walks your dogs. Like it's laughably implausible, and it might be destabilizing. But it's coming out trickle.
By the way, the bathtub email, the hot tub email, it was real, but it wasn't the last drop. Remember they did a banker drop before? Mm-hmm. It was by Jess Stanley towards Jeffrey Epstein, and he says, so when all hell breaks loose, the world is crumbling, I will come here at peace. Presently, I'm in the hot tub with a glass of white wine. This is an amazing place. Truly amazing. Next time we're here together, I owe you so much.
Is that a woman or a man?
It's a man. And then it says,
hot tub and white wine.
I deeply appreciate our friendship. We have a few so profound.
That is
Out of his,
among the more
listen,
homosexual
like,
sounding
I think we
emails
just
I've
got
ever
something that's
heard.
worse than gay Nazi wolves, and it's men drinking white wine in a hot tub.
Is it white wine
Gay-
or red wine?
Gay Nazi wolves drinking white wine in a hot
I
tub.
would have respected
white
red wine.
alcoholic, evil gay bankers might be the worst.
But you repeat yourself.
But this guy, and he sent it from his JP Morgan account. All right,
Which is actually
great.
like,
The next
we're going to gloss over that for the sake of time.
Allegedly.
But Trump has launched an investigation into connections between Jeffrey Epstein and J.P. Morgan, as well as the Clinton Foundation, Reid Hoffman, and several other key players. But speaking of, going and getting Jeffrey Epstein's personal cell phone number from Bill Clinton, let's talk about what else came out about the Clintons thanks to these emails. Because
Oh my goodness.
this is one of the things that, kind of got swept under the rug, because for everything else we've talked about, I could show you headlines from New York Post, New York Times, Associated Press, all the big outlets. With this one, verified, it's all in there, had to go to some fringe sources to actually get anyone reporting on it. But according to those newly released emails, it has reignited one of the Clintons' oldest and darkest controversies, the 1993 death of Deputy White House counsel Vince Foster. Buried in the 20,000 pages of documents released by House Democrats on the Oversight Committee last week, there's a brief exchange from 2016 between Epstein and Michael Wolff. Wolff asked Epstein for a thumbnail on the Nussbaumer Foster, a reference to then White House counsel Bernard Nussbaumer and Vince Foster. Epstein replied with a single suggestive line: Nussbaum White House counsel, Hillary doing naughties with Vince, appearing to nod at a long-running rumor of an affair between Hillary Clinton and Foster that has never been substantiated. Vince Foster, you might recall, was close with the Clintons from their time back in Arkansas, was a partner with Hillary at the Rose Law Firm, and he was found dead on July 20th, 1993, with a gunshot wound to the head. That is the one that was, very odd with the lack of blood in the area, suggesting the body might have been moved.
I thought
Who
I was,
doesn't move after getting shot?
No, of course.
I thought I was under the impression that he had shot himself in the back of the head, but ChatGPT says it was not from the back of the head, but in the mouth. So I don't know if Chat's wrong on this, because ChatGPT has been getting a lot of basic stuff wrong.
ChatGPT got the call.
I
It sold
remembered it
out.
being the back of the head too, but I don't know if that's
If that was like the conspiracy rumors at the time, because like the other guy who was found suicided hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast to the chest and the shotgun
shotgun's far
25
away,
feet
yeah.
away. So but I don't know if that was the rumor. And Chat is giving me overtly wrong answers on things that are demonstrably.
Yeah, but Vince Foster is named number one on the Clinton death list, where people believe he was executed either for what he saw in the White House or possibly
Banging Bill's wife?
This
Look at that.
affair he was having with Hillary Clinton. And, if they killed him for having an affair, that's certainly the pot calling the kettle black on that one, Bill. Using Monica as a humidor in the Oval Office. But
So gross.
yeah, so what did Epstein know about this? It's clear he's close with both Clintons. That connection is well established. There's no chance of denying that now. But this one throwaway line in an email has kind of reignited focus on it. They released all these things to try to get Trump, and it seems like they sort of just confirmed Hillary Clinton was sleeping with Vince Foster.
Everything. They've confirmed. This document dump has confirmed what everyone suspected, that the Democrats and some Republicans were in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. Just coming back to the humidor and the cigar and the vajayjay. Do the cigar not leave traces of leaf in there that could cause internal
I
infection?
haven't asked enough questions.
There's some things I don't want to know.
You don't stick things that can shed leafy substances inside the vajay. All right, but
as long as you urinate afterward, you're fine.
no, because I think that comes out of a different part of the. If I don't know
how it all works. I have no idea.
So Jeffrey Epstein knows, and I don't know if this was common knowledge like Harvey Weinstein's sex crimes in Hollywood, or if he had blackmail material on Hillary, and by this time, Vince is long enough dead that he can, make a joke about it. It's wild.
If he was intimate with her, he might have been privy to some kind of details.
She does kind of look like Sabrina Carpenter when she was younger.
I don't. Do you guys know who that is?
Sabrina Carpenter, is that
From a horror movie.
The pop star who's really popular right now.
I feel so old.
You don't know how Sabrina Carpenter is. Yeah, I guarantee.
I wish I didn't know who Sabrina Carpenter was.
She's the one on the right or the left?
Yes.
Am I like?
It's Hillary Clinton on the left.
Oh, wow,
Sabrina
they
Carpenter on
do
the right.
look
So
similar.
she does kind of look like young Hillary Clinton.
Am I the only one who thinks that Chelsea Clinton looks nothing like Hillary, and there's no chance that they have a different? I don't know who they. What the conspiracy
there's something strange going on there, but the suicide claims about Vince Foster say he was under stress from the White House, in addition to being depressed from the pressure from Travelgate and Whitewater that he experienced back before Clinton took office.
Was there a note?
I believe there was a note, but it was found like torn up somewhere else with another guy's handprint on it. Like there was forensic evidence linking it to a different guy. So this is why the Vince Foster suicide claims have been so suspicious for so long. But for Jeffrey Epstein, even just as a joke, to be like, Hillary doing the naughty with Vince Foster, is that something to be taken seriously?
Yeah, I mean, he knew, and they probably had it as black
right here
back in the day.
Nussbaum White House counsel. I showed this a second ago. Hillary doing naughties with Vince.
Okay, I'm kind of in the middle with this because, again, singular emails that are thrown out to someone in private without the intention of anyone ever seeing it aren't necessarily always intended to be factually accurate.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the next one. Now,
that's why I'm saying it, because there is.
Plus, it's 23 years old by this time because Foster died.
There's no good way for me to tee this up. So let's address the claim. Did Donald Trump give a blowjob to Bill Clinton?
No.
According to the emails, that's what people are saying online.
That's a great picture for the header of what we're talking about.
I mean,
Uncle Sam wants you to be involved in a blackmail pedophile ring.
Yeah.
Hold on. I didn't hear the BJ.
Okay.
rumor.
So in this email, that is an email exchange between 2018 between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Mark. Humberto, were you present when you did? So you've met Mark Epstein?
I met Mark Epstein. We sat there because Pat was coming in. He always has a little separation between starting the show and the guests, so we entertained him a little bit. I got maybe half an hour him and his boss just talking random stuff. It was eerie. He didn't want to show his face on the interview.
And Epstein, his brother, who doesn't believe that who doesn't believe that Jeffrey killed himself.
Yeah, he sent us all the files, not me. So don't
I wouldn't touch that.
He sent someone. I'm not gonna say the producer Rob. All the files, and I saw them, and then we talked a little bit with him.
Let's be real though. Epstein files are like the least compromising thing on Rob's computer on a daily basis.
For sure. And it was definitely off. Like, it was so eerie to be in the same room with this guy. This might take... he was definitely more involved than he claims to be. I remember, and it's not on tape, and Rob can attest to this. We finished the interview, and then he left, all right? And then he came back to go, and he asked Pat, do you know what human trafficking really means? And left.
What?
Yeah.
And
I don't even know how to interpret.
I believe we included that in the interview because it was still on the record and it was done in front of all the cameras. So that's in there.
I was taken aback. So,
and Mark Epstein,
Friday afternoon trying to leave Miami by car.
Mark Epstein has come out and said various other weird things over time, but in this email,
read this. So I need to hear this.
It's an email exchange. Right here is the line that sent everybody nuts. Ask him if Putin has photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Bubba is apparently a nickname by which Bill Clinton has been known for many years. So this created the internet rumor that Vladimir Putin has compromising photos of Donald Trump performing oral sex on Bubba Clinton.
Do you know what I would believe before believing that Trump would put
the Steele dossier P-gate?
I would believe that the Earth is flat before I believe that Trump gave a BJ to Bill Clinton.
Time to talk about flat Earth then.
Yeah. Donald Trump does not do that for anybody. Regardless of what... you could say Trump's into anything you want, but
Well, also,
What, does that line up with anything you've
No,
observed?
it sounds like a stupid joke that everyone would say
that was
about
my
what
previous point,
Putin.
So Mark Epstein quickly moved over the weekend to shut down the rumor, saying that in a statement he supplied to multiple media outlets, Mark Epstein flatly rejected the interpretation that it was Bill Clinton, insisting that the exchange was nothing more than a humorous private back and forth between siblings that was never meant for public release. And he said, quote, "For the avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton." Doesn't clarify who Bubba is or why he might have...
Bubba's always the name of the guard at the prison
but
that comes in and you have to blow Bubba. Like,
So, of course, it doesn't really address what the deal is with... Is there a video of Trump giving head to somebody else named Bubba?
I doubt
but
that.
I highly doubt it. It's in the same vein as Trump flew to Russia and was urinated on by Russian prostitutes.
there's very few things I would bet my literal house on. I would bet my literal house that no such video. Now, Bill Clinton on the other... No.
It does, however, remind me of a joke I heard quite a while back that seems particularly relevant. Donald Trump dies and he goes to hell. Unfortunately, his soul was not in the right place. And Satan's walking him around the wing where they keep all the politicians. And the devil tells him, you know, we are so saturated with politicians right now that actually every time we bring in a new one, we have to kick one of the old ones out and let them go somewhere else. So I'm going to show you the last 3 guys, and you tell me which one you want to replace. I'll give you that option. So opens the first door. It's George W. Bush. He's being flogged and whipped and beaten by demons. And Trump says, "Oh no, I don't want to go in there. That sounds horrible." Go to the next room. It's Obama, and he's being endlessly waterboarded and set on fire and all the most horrific things, being tormented by demons. And Trump says, not really inclined to go there either. Open the next room, and it's Bill Clinton sitting at a replica of the Resolute desk, and Monica Lewinsky is in there just going to town on him nonstop for all of eternity. And Trump says, that actually looks pretty good. I think I'd like to go into this room. And Satan leans in through the door and says, "Okay, Monica, you're free to go."
Okay. I thought it was going to be Hillary coming up front of the desk.
long setup, but
No, it's a good joke.
blowing
I liked
Bubba.
Let's get serious here. These accusations are wild. Like, we're talking about the president of the United States, all right? That's one thing. He has a beautiful family. And them throwing this around, you know, like with children, grandchildren, some of them they're not even 18. And for this, that is a baseless accusation, like he said, she said with Putin, all right, by the brother of the biggest pedophile on the planet. Like I'm glad Trump hasn't replied to this, because this cannot be like
it can't be. It does. It's not dignified of worthy of an answer.
Worthy of an answer.
My only thing is, confession through projection. It's only degenerates who engage in this that would think anybody on earth would believe this in the first place. Yeah, he's a germaphobe, and I can't really. I mean, I'm not into that, so maybe it just seems gross to me, but.
Certainly not in Russia, where a foreign government is going to be recording it.
No, but it's
the whole premise
a foreign adversary government.
What do you think about it? He's in Russia with Putin videoing with Clinton getting a BJ.
It is on its face absurd, and the fact that it needs to be discussed alongside the concrete, provable instance of Jeffrey Epstein texting a member of Congress during a hearing.
It's a reflection of the only people who would think anybody on earth would be amenable to believing that must engage in similar degeneracy on their own. Like, it's not even something that would even cross my mind. That would be like a joke, like a joke among friends. But the other stuff, which is not a joke, which I would have thought Stacey Plaskett would have come on and said, "No, that's absolutely not what was going on. These are defamatory accusations, and you are impugning my integrity." Has she said?
I haven't heard a word from her.
Because if it's all
I don't know.
true.
She's going to say, that won't prevent a Democrat from lying. It's
right.
not me. Prove it.
Yeah,
Prove it.
right.
I was texting someone else.
And then you just call her phone from the number on the text. He keeps sending her the text.
Yeah. So in the interest of time, we're going to have to skip over some of what we had prepared, but there is one last thing I wanted to hit in our last 5 minutes here.
Oh, man.
So I have to ask, are any of you suffering from alpha-gal syndrome? And by that, I do not mean... are you a boss babe who's a real go-getter in a man's world? I am asking, have you perhaps been bitten by one of these buggers, the Lone Star tick, that infects you with alpha-gal syndrome, a disease that makes you allergic to red meat? Because
that would be hell on earth for me.
Well, someone just died from it just recently, but there's some really interesting stuff with ticks. I was privy to some footage, my friend's a producer, and there's a book that was written called Bitten. It's about how Lyme disease was in the 1950s to 1975 orchestrated by the government. There was a scientist who worked for the government and was running on, putting pathogens into ticks to see if they could spread them. And before he died, well, right when he died, they found this woman who knew him, a journalist, found a bunch of books on his desk. And one of them was a letter saying, I always wished that someone would do something until I realized I was someone, and left a whole trail of evidence showing how the government was bioengineering ticks through his experiments to try and spread disease as a bioweapon.
And not spread disease to become allergic to red meat to save the earth from meat eating, or just to spread disease?
No, it was for Lyme, which was
disease.
going to be an actual, but this is the same concept because things evolve over time. So
let's back up and look at what this is, because last week we just got the first known case of someone who died from alpha-gal syndrome. It's a tick-borne allergy that triggers life-threatening reactions to red meat. The victim, a 47-year-old New Jersey man, an otherwise healthy airline pilot, collapsed and died just hours after eating a hamburger.
Shut.
Only 2 weeks earlier, he had suffered a nearly identical but non-fatal episode after eating steak on a camping trip, waking up in the night with violent abdominal pain, diarrhea, and vomiting. The time he had told his son he thought he was going to die from how bad it was, he eventually recovered. The hamburger at a backyard barbecue killed him. Alpha-gal syndrome begins when a tick, specifically the Lone Star tick, is what they found it in.
Lone Star.
And the Lone Star tick is spreading aggressively. Coincidence? I think not. Begins when the tick injects alpha-gal into the bloodstream during a bite, sensitizing the immune system. Weeks or months later, eating beef, pork, lamb, venison, or even dairy products can set off reactions ranging from hives and nausea to life-threatening anaphylaxis, often delayed by 2 to 6 hours, making the cause hard to recognize. While it's always been theorized that this could potentially be fatal, this case marks the first documented death, and it gets even worse than that because it can also be triggered by contact with leather or with certain other substances that use animal products. It basically makes your body unable to process a sugar that is present in most forms of meat.
You've just added a fear to my list now that now trumps AIDS.
It's crazy. If I ever got this thing, I will order the most beautiful A5 Kobe beef. Like, I will go back to drinking, get the most beautiful bottle of whiskey, and just sit there and take myself out with a big, beautiful steak.
Well, you got to wonder.
There's no way to live.
No, but the death from it is going to be. You'd have to eat.
Well, anaphylaxis is terrible. But one of the interesting things is why is it, if they've always assumed it could become fatal, but there haven't been any cases that were fatal, why now are we suddenly seeing an uptick in the amount of people who have it and more severe cases? Usually you won't see anaphylaxis on a first-time reaction. You'll rarely see it on a second-time reaction unless you're highly, highly, highly allergic. Allergies grow over time. This is an extreme response.
Oh, teacher, I got an answer. Weakened immune system from multiple jibby jabs over the course of many years.
Could be something.
The CDC estimates that while 110,000 cases were identified between 2010 and 2022, as many as 450,000 may be living with the allergy, although undiagnosed. Mostly because most healthcare providers have actually never heard of it.
Same with Lyme disease.
The Lone Star tick's range has rapidly expanded from the southeast into the mid-Atlantic, Midwest, and even parts of the Northeast, driven by deer populations and changing environmental conditions. And you have to wonder, much like Lyme disease, that seems to have at least had some sort of origin in a lab, are we being engineered by the powers that be that don't want us eating red meat in the first place? Here's a World Economic Forum linked bioethicist a few years back talking about precisely this.
So I'll give 2 examples. So one is that people eat too much meat, right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, then they would it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. Yeah, some people will be willing to, but other people, they may be willing to, but they have a weakness of will. They say, wow, this steak is just too juicy. I can't do it. I'm one of those, by the way. So, but so here's the thought, right? So it turns out that we know a lot about, we have these intolerance to, for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
That clip was from 2016. So this guy is a NYU bioethicist named Matthew Lau. And in 2016, was sitting down and saying, the Lone Star tick and alpha-gal syndrome, we could potentially engineer human beings to not be able to consume meat. He's, of course,
This is crazy.
To the World
If he rounded up,
Nope.
if I was the head of
go.
I will have her under custody.
They tell you
immediately.
the thing they are going to do. There is something, every time these things, you go back a year and you're like, the guy was telling you to your face what he was going to do.
That's
This
terrorism.
could not be more clear. This is, and I have a strong, strong belief that the government has been since the 50s using ticks, insects. There's a case, this is so random. This is someone I grew up with. His dad recently just died. They couldn't figure out how he died. They found out 2 weeks later it was like West Nile. It's like, so there's all these spreads of new illnesses that are becoming more, maybe because of the jab, weakened immune system, but becoming more prominent, weirder reactions that we haven't seen before. And now you're seeing on camera,
They're admitting to it.
Yeah, I was being half serious, but I mean about the jibby jab. But
no, I think it's very possible.
Bringing it back all the way to the beginning. I mean, there's only one solution to this. You got to kill all deer. You got to kill all cattle, and to prevent the spread of that tick, which would that is, I have no doubt that is what they intended to do. That's what they're trying to experiment with. Like they were trying to inject the mosquitoes with potential vaccines so that people get vaccinated without their knowledge. But I can think of nothing more hell on earth than being allergic to meat or allergic to martinis or allergic to coffee or energy drinks. Like if you lose the ability to enjoy a nice steak, that man belongs in jail. I'm gonna remember that. What's his name?
Matthew Lau.
How do you spell it? L-A-U?
And L-I-A-O. And my bioethicist S. Matthew Lau.
This is just one of the fronts of the war against meat. I'm coining the term. A pound of ground beef, like the news came out on Monday, might hit $10. A pound of ground beef might hit $10. Like this is insane. It's economically every time harder. They have a war against farmers everywhere. It's a war against farmers. You know,
100%.
And now they're bioengineering ways to wean off people, like to make people don't eat meat. So I don't know. I like this a lot. I don't like this at all.
The cricket videos are very weird. They're like, oh, you're gonna love crickets. They take like all the Hollywood celebrities. Did you guys see that montage? That to me, I'm like, I'm not eating crickets.
They don't want you to eat a cricket
before COVID. It tastes like chips. I mean, it's just dry flavored.
They don't want you. They don't want you to just crunch on like a whole cricket. They're putting cricket flour in foods. They're using bug byproducts.
Yeah, roach milk.
Roach milk to make various.
How do you milk a roach?
No. So yeah, it's so on the nose. It's so perfect in alignment with their agenda that you.
It's event 201.
You can't help but wonder.
What was the event that they ran in 2019 before COVID?
It was Agenda 2030.
Something. No, it's not Agenda. They ran event, whatever it was, which replicated a mass spreading virus and how you would have to like do everything they did during COVID the year before COVID.
And then Bill Gates invested a bunch of money, not only in pandemic preparedness stuff, but also researching, like we said, the vaccine mosquitoes and other insect applications for bioengineering.
Bill Gates, the man who Jeffrey Epstein tried to blackmail once upon a time.
Funny how that works. But on that rather depressing note, we're going to leave you. I'm going to go get a burger and celebrate the fact that I can still eat red meat while we can. While we can.
I'm definitely eating a burger.
I encourage all of you to go out and do the same. Thank you all for joining us once again. On behalf of myself, our entire crew, our other panelists who weren't with us today, we appreciate your support. We will be back next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m., right here on The Unusual Suspects. Humberto, Viva, Ilan, tell the people where they can find you if they want to know more.
Viva Fry on Rumble Daily, the Viva Fry on Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
I'm Minect only. Find me on Minect. And I might drop a video in the upcoming 2 weeks. I haven't done it in 3 years, but I think I have something to say.
I just got on Minect also, and if you want to see my cool stuff, go to egardwatches.com. There's
very cool stuff.
EGARDwatches.com.
Fantastic product. And I've been Connor Walcott. I am on Minect. I am also on Substack. I am also on Twitter. Follow me over there. Sometimes I'm funny. And on that note, I think that'll do it for today.
Peace out.
Peace out, everybody.